The alien princess froze when her soulmate mark glowed after touching a human guard. The Lyrathi royal palace floated above the capital city like a crown made of light. Its tall white towers curved toward the sky, covered in glowing symbols older than most civilizations. Inside its walls, history was not just remembered, it was alive. Princess Sailira stood alone in her private chamber, looking at her reflection in the crystal mirror. Her silver eyes looked calm, but inside her thoughts were restless. On her right wrist, hidden beneath a thin sleeve, lay the soulmate mark. It was a delicate pattern shaped like a star wrapped in circles, carved into her skin at birth. Every royal child of Lyrathi was born with one. The mark was supposed to awaken when the true soulmate appeared. Legends said it would glow, warm, and guide the empire toward balance. But Sailira was 24 cycles old and her mark had never reacted. Not once. Many whispered that the old legends were wrong. Others whispered that she was wrong. Sailira lowered her sleeve and took a slow breath. Today was important. Delegates from several star systems had arrived for the Unity ceremony, meant to strengthen alliances. The palace was full of nobles, guards, scholars, and foreign guests, including humans. Humans were new to the Galactic Council. They had joined only a few years ago after surviving disasters that wiped out stronger races. Most species viewed them as fragile, emotional, and unimportant. Useful workers, maybe soldiers, but nothing more. Sailira had never met one before. A soft chime sounded at the door. "Princess," her assistant said gently, "the ceremony will begin soon." Sailira nodded and turned away from the mirror. "I'm ready." Ethan Hale adjusted his uniform as he stood at his post near the ceremonial hall. The fabric felt stiff, and the air smelled different from Earth, cleaner, sharper. He kept his hands behind his back and his eyes forward, just like training taught him. He was a human guard, assigned as part of the new interspecies security exchange. It sounded impressive, but really it meant standing quietly and not causing trouble. The palace was beautiful, but also intimidating. Everything glowed softly, as if the walls themselves were watching him. Ethan reminded himself to breathe slowly. Just do your job, he thought. Stand, watch, protect. Around him, alien guards moved with perfect grace. Their armor was shaped from living metal, responding to their thoughts. Ethan's gear looked plain in comparison. No one paid much attention to him. That was fine. He preferred it that way. The ceremony began with music, low and flowing like a distant tide. Nobles filled the hall, wearing robes of light and color. At the center, a raised platform waited. Princess Sailira entered. The room fell silent. Ethan had seen images of Lyrathi royalty before, but none of them prepared him for this. Sailira walked with calm confidence, her presence gentle yet powerful. Her long white hair shimmered under the lights, and her expression was composed, thoughtful. She took her place on the platform as the high priest began to speak ancient words. Ethan's attention sharpened. This was the most important moment of the day. If anything went wrong, it would be his responsibility too. As the ceremony continued, Sailira listened carefully, but her thoughts wandered. She felt the familiar weight of expectation. Every movement she made was watched, every choice judged. Her wrist felt the same as always. Nothing. She told herself not to care. Legends were not laws. She was more than a mark. Then, without warning, a disturbance rippled through the hall. A foreign delegate turned too quickly, his long robe catching on the edge of the platform. He stumbled forward, knocking into Sailira's space. The floor beneath her foot was smooth, polished to perfection, and suddenly she slipped. Gasps filled the hall. Before any royal guard could move, a human hand reached out. Ethan reacted without thinking. He stepped forward and caught Sailira by the arm, steadying her before she could fall. His grip was firm but respectful, exactly as training demanded. "Careful," he said quietly, his voice calm. For a single heartbeat, everything stopped. The instant Ethan's bare skin touched Sailira's wrist, Light exploded between them. Her soulmate mark burst into brilliant silver and gold, glowing brighter than anything in the hall. Symbols lifted from her skin into the air, spinning slowly like living stars. The music cut off. The priest fell silent. Every single person froze. Celira stared at her arm, her breath caught in her chest. Warmth rushed through her, not pain, not fear, but something deep and steady like coming home after a long journey. Her eyes widened. It's awake. Ethan felt it too. A strange warmth spread up his arm, gentle but powerful. He let go immediately, stepping back in shock. I'm sorry, he said quickly, thinking he had done something wrong. But no one answered him. All eyes were on the glowing mark. Whispers erupted across the hall. It's real. The palace itself responded to the awakening, activating systems that had slept for centuries. Light patterns appeared along the walls, matching the symbols of the mark. Royal guards moved into formation, not toward Celira but around Ethan. Not to arrest him, to protect him. The high priest's voice trembled. The bond has been recognized, he said. The soulmate mark has awakened. Celira's heart pounded. She turned to the council members, her voice steady despite the storm inside her. It is true, she said. The mark has chosen. Many looked shocked. Some looked angry, others afraid. Ethan stood still, confused and overwhelmed. He had no idea what a soulmate mark meant, only that something huge had just happened and it involved him. I didn't mean to cause trouble, he said honestly. Celira stepped down from the platform and walked toward him. The glowing light softened but did not fade. When she stood before him, the mark pulsed gently, responding to his presence. You did nothing wrong, she said softly. Their eyes met. In that moment, Celira understood something the legends never explained. The mark had not awakened because of power, blood, or status. It had awakened because of choice. Because when the moment came, the human guard did not hesitate. The entire empire held its breath. And nothing would ever be the same again. The ceremonial hall did not return to normal after the glow faded. Even after the ancient alarms softened into silence, no one moved. The air felt heavy, as if the palace itself was waiting for orders. Princess Celira stood facing the human guard, her soulmate mark still glowing softly beneath her sleeve, like a quiet heartbeat. The High Council members whispered among themselves. Some looked fearful, others looked angry. A few stared at Ethan with open disbelief. A human, one noble muttered. This must be a mistake. There are no mistakes, the high priest replied, his voice calm but firm. The mark has awakened. The palace systems confirmed it. Ethan swallowed hard. He felt very small standing in the center of so much attention. He had guarded embassies, border stations, even pirate negotiations, but never this. His hands trembled slightly, though he kept his posture straight. Princess Celira noticed. She turned toward the council. The ceremony is over, she said clearly. Escort the guests out calmly. Some council members opened their mouths to protest, but the glow of the mark pulsed once more, brighter than before. The palace lights responded immediately, sealing exits and guiding guests away with soft light paths. The palace obeyed her. That alone silenced most objections. Ethan was escorted to a secure chamber deep inside the palace. The room was simple but comfortable, with smooth walls that changed color slowly, helping calm the mind. 2 royal guards stood outside, alert but respectful. Inside, Ethan paced slowly. What just happened? He thought he had touched the princess for less than a second. Now ancient legends, glowing marks, and political shockwaves were crashing around him. He had no idea what was expected of him, or what danger he might be in. A soft tone sounded, and the door opened. Princess Celira stepped inside alone. The guards closed the door behind her. Ethan froze, then quickly bowed his head. Your Highness, I'm sorry if I broke any rule. I didn't know. You saved me from falling, Celira said gently. That is not a crime. He looked up, surprised by her calm tone. She stood a few steps away, studying him with curiosity rather than judgment. The glow of the mark was dimmer now but still visible, tracing faint light along her skin. "You're not afraid?" Ethan asked before he could stop himself. Salira considered the question. "I am," she answered honestly, "but not of you." Silence settled between them, not uncomfortable but thoughtful. "I don't understand the mark," Ethan said. "On Earth, we don't have anything like that." "The mark is older than our empire," Salira explained. "It is said to bind two souls whose actions balance one another. It cannot be forced. It cannot be faked." She looked at her wrist. "And it has never awakened for a human before." Ethan let out a slow breath. "Lucky me," he said quietly. To his surprise, Salira smiled faintly. While Ethan and Salira spoke, the palace council chamber filled with tension. Arguments echoed across the circular room. This bond threatened stability. Ancient texts long ignored were brought forward. Patterns emerged, references to outsiders, to unexpected hands, to choice over blood. One scholar spoke carefully. The mark did not react to his species. It reacted to his action. He chose to protect without hesitation. That unsettled many. Across the galaxy, humans were known for strong emotions, fast reactions, and stubborn loyalty. Traits often seen as weaknesses. Now those same traits were awakening lost technology. Some council members began to see humans not as lesser beings, but as unpredictable ones. And unpredictability frightened empires. Later that cycle, Ethan was moved under heavy protection to a guest residence within the inner palace. He was informed clearly. He was not a prisoner, but he was not free to leave. For his safety. Rumors had already begun spreading beyond the palace walls. News drones hovered above the capital city. Foreign envoys sent urgent messages to their governments. The phrase "human soulmate" spread like wildfire. Ethan sat by a window watching the distant city lights. Everything felt unreal. A message arrived from human command. "Remain calm. Do not provoke. We are monitoring." It didn't help much. Another chime sounded. Princess Salira entered again, this time wearing a simple robe rather than royal attire. She looked less like a symbol, more like a person. "I wanted to check on you," she said. "I'm still here," Ethan replied. "That's something," she nodded. "There are voices calling for your removal quietly." His jaw tightened. "I figured. They fear what they do not understand," she said, "but they cannot undo the bond." Ethan looked at her seriously. "If this puts your empire at risk, I can leave." Salira studied him carefully. The mark reacted softly, glowing in response to his words. "You would walk away?" she asked. "If it protects people," he said simply. Something shifted in her expression. Respect, surprise, something deeper. "That," she said quietly, "is why the mark chose you." That night danger came quietly. A small group moved through a restricted corridor using old clearance codes. They believed secrecy would protect the empire. Instead, they triggered the palace's oldest defense system. Energy barriers snapped into place. Lights flared. Ethan heard the alarm and moved instantly, training taking over. He stepped in front of Salira as guards rushed in. A pulse of light burst from the soulmate mark, stronger than before. It formed a protective shield around them, steady and unbreakable. Everyone stopped. The attackers were disarmed without harm. The threat ended as quickly as it began. Silence followed. The high priest arrived moments later and stared at the glowing barrier in awe. "The bond grows," he said softly, "not through ritual but through trust." Salira looked at Ethan, her voice steady. "You chose again." Ethan nodded slowly. "Some choices are easy." Across the palace, opinions began to change. Not all fear faded, but respect began to grow. The empire was starting to understand something important. Humanity's strength was not in ancient bloodlines or perfect control. It was in the simple, powerful act of choosing to stand firm, again and again. And the galaxy had only just begun to notice. By the next cycle, the entire Lyrathi Empire knew the truth. The ancient soulmate mark had awakened for a human. News spread beyond the capital, beyond the empire, and into the wider galaxy. Some worlds reacted with curiosity. Others reacted with fear. Many simply refused to believe it. Human systems sent urgent questions. Alien empires sent silent watchers. Inside the palace, Princess Celira stood before a wide star map, its lights shifting slowly. Every glowing point represented a decision waiting to be made. The council had called an emergency gathering, and the air was tense. The bond must be completed, the high priest said. If left unstable, it could harm both of them. A council member shook his head. Completing it will bind the empire's future to a human. That risk is too great. Celira spoke calmly. The bond already exists. Denying it will not erase it. Eyes turned toward Ethan, who stood quietly beside her. He wore his guard uniform, plain and human, surrounded by symbols older than history. He felt the weight of the room but did not lower his gaze. "I never asked for this," Ethan said honestly. "But I won't run from it either." Some council members frowned, others looked thoughtful. One scholar stepped forward. "The mark reacts to intention," she said. "Every time the human chooses protection, it grows stronger. That cannot be controlled by force." Control. That was the word that frightened the council most. That same cycle, a message arrived from the Karun Dominion, a powerful neighboring empire. Their words were polite. Their meaning was not. They demanded access to Ethan for study. They wanted to understand how a human activated ancient systems. They wanted to know if it could be copied. The council chamber filled with raised voices. "This is exactly what we feared," one council member said. "Humans will become targets." Celira's voice cut through the noise. "He is not a resource, he is a person." Ethan felt something warm pulse along his arm. The mark responded again, faint but clear. The high priest nodded slowly. "The bond protects itself." But protection was not enough. The galaxy was watching. Ethan spent his days training with royal guards, not because anyone ordered him to, but because he chose to. He learned Lyrathi movement patterns, defense formations, and emergency signals. In return, the guards learned something new. Humans adapted quickly. They made mistakes, corrected them, and tried again without shame. Ethan asked questions others never did. He listened. He improved. Slowly, respect grew. One guard spoke quietly to another. "He fights like he thinks first." "He stands like he means it," another replied. Princess Celira watched these changes closely. She saw how Ethan spoke to servants with the same respect he showed nobles. She noticed how the palace systems reacted when he was near, doors opening faster, lights adjusting softly. The bond was changing the palace, and the palace was changing the empire. The real test came without warning. A distress signal appeared on the outer defense grid. A civilian transport had been caught between rival patrols near Lyrathi space. Foreign weapons locked on. Panic flooded the channel. The council hesitated. "If we intervene, it may start a conflict," one member said. Celira looked at the map. The ship carried families, children. Ethan stepped forward. "They don't have time for debate." The room fell silent. The mark flared brighter than ever. Before anyone could stop her, Celira gave the order. "Dispatch rescue ships." The council protested, but the palace systems had already responded. Ethan was assigned to the lead vessel. "Human involvement may escalate matters," a council member warned. Ethan met his gaze. "Doing nothing already has." The rescue operation was tense but clean. Ethan coordinated calmly with mixed crews, using simple commands that everyone understood. When communication failed, he acted. When danger appeared, he stood firm. The rival patrols backed off, not because of threats but because something about the human-led formation felt certain. The civilians were saved. No shots fired. When the ships returned, news spread fast. The human did not dominate. He protected. Across the empire, people began to ask new questions. What if humanity was not weak? What if they were strong in a different way? That night, Celira and Ethan stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The lights below shimmered like stars fallen to the ground. "You could still leave," Celira said quietly. "Human command would protect you." Ethan shook his head. "Running would only make things worse." She studied him. "You choose the harder path." He smiled faintly. "Someone has to." The mark glowed steadily between them, no longer sudden or wild, but strong and balanced. "The final ritual approaches," Celira said. "Once completed, the bond will be permanent." Ethan took a slow breath. "What does it mean for you?" "It means change," she said. "For the Empire, for the galaxy," he nodded. "Then let's do it right." Far beyond the palace, forces began to move. Not all empires were willing to accept a future where humans mattered. Some prepared tests, others prepared traps. But they all made the same mistake. They thought the bond made Ethan powerful. They did not realize the truth. The bond revealed what humans had always been: adaptable, loyal, willing to stand when others hesitated. As the stars shifted and the ritual neared, one thing became clear. The galaxy was no longer deciding whether to accept humanity. It was deciding how to live with them. And the final choice was coming. The day of the final ritual arrived under a quiet sky. The Lyrathi capital was calm, but the calm felt fragile, like a breath held too long. Across the city, citizens gathered near public screens. Some watched with hope, others watched with fear. Every corner of the empire understood that this moment would change everything. Inside the palace, the ancient hall of binding awakened. Lights flowed along the floor like gentle rivers. Tall pillars rose toward the ceiling, covered in symbols that shifted slowly, responding to living thought. The hall had not been used in centuries. At its center stood two platforms. Princess Celira stepped forward first. She wore ceremonial robes woven with light, but her face was calm and focused. She was not thinking like a ruler in this moment. She was thinking like a person making a choice. Across from her stood Ethan Hale. No special armor, no symbols, just a human uniform, clean and simple. Many watching expected him to look afraid. He did not. The high priest raised his staff. "This ritual will not force a bond," he said. "It will confirm what already exists. If either heart rejects the path, the mark will fade." The room went silent. Celira looked at Ethan. "This is your last chance to walk away." Ethan met her gaze. "I know," she waited. "I stay," he said simply. The soulmate mark burst into light, strong, steady, and calm. The hall responded instantly. Energy filled the space, not wild or dangerous, but warm and balanced. The symbols on the walls lifted into the air, forming a slow circle around them. The mark on Celira's wrist extended outward, connecting gently with Ethan's chest in a soft line of light. No pain, no fear, just understanding. Across the galaxy, ancient sensors awakened. Systems long believed dead began transmitting again. Not messages of power, but of connection. The high priest's voice trembled. "The bond is complete." At that exact moment, alarms echoed through the palace, not from inside, from space. Multiple foreign fleets crossed into Lyrathi borders. The test had come. The council chamber erupted in panic. "They are challenging the bond." Some council members protested, but the palace systems activated instantly. The bond had authority now. Across the stars, screens lit up. Alien leaders appeared, cold, curious, hostile. One voice cut through. "You bind your empire to a human. Prove this is not weakness." Silence followed. Ethan stepped forward. He did not shout, he did not threaten. "We don't want your space," he said calmly. "We don't want control. We chose to protect because someone needed help, that's it." Some laughed, some sneered. Then another fleet moved closer. Princess Celira raised her hand, but Ethan placed his hand gently over hers. "Let me finish," he said. The mark glowed brighter. "You think power means taking," Ethan continued. "Humans survived because we stand together, because we show up. Because when the moment comes, we choose." The palace systems responded, not with weapons, with shields. Energy spread across Lyrathi space, forming defensive barriers stronger than anything recorded. Not aggressive, not threatening, protective. The fleet stopped. They had expected resistance. They found certainty. Across the galaxy, something shifted. Empires realized the truth too late. The human did not command the power. The bond did not obey status. It responded to intent, and intent could not be stolen. One by one, fleets withdrew. Not defeated, but changed. In the days that followed, the Lyrathi Empire rewrote its laws, not because tradition demanded it, because reality had. Humans were no longer labeled as weak or lesser. They were recognized as partners, capable of awakening systems that depended on courage, loyalty, and choice. Princess Sailira addressed the empire. "The bond did not choose a ruler," she said. "It chose balance. Humanity stands beside us, not above, not below." Ethan stood quietly behind her, still wearing his guard uniform. When asked if he would accept titles, he refused. "I'll keep doing my job," he said, "just on a bigger scale." That answer spread faster than any speech. On a quiet evening, Ethan returned to the same balcony where everything had begun. Sailira joined him. The city lights shimmered below. "You changed history," she said softly. Ethan shook his head. "No, I just didn't step away," she smiled. "Sometimes that's enough." The mark glowed gently between them, no longer dramatic or sudden, just steady. Alive, across the stars, ancient systems remained active, waiting, not for kings, not for conquerors, but for those willing to stand when it mattered. The galaxy had learned something important. Humanity's greatest strength was never force. It was the courage to choose, again and again. And that choice had just begun.